In this video, we're going to take a look at adding ceilings to a house. So first of all, I need to get into a ceiling plan. Up until this point, we've mostly been dealing with floor plans, but now I've got to scroll down to my ceiling plans category here. And I'm going to start on the second floor. Double click on the second floor. You will see a little bit of the roof reflecting in here. That can be hidden if you want. You can click on the roof and type EH. You can do that over the garage as well. Of course, we're not going to deal with a second floor ceiling in the garage, so we can't see the walls over there right now, but that's okay. So I'm going to start with the ceiling tool. So I'll come up and choose ceiling here in my build section on the architecture tab. And if I look over here at my different types of ways that I can create a ceiling, I can either sketch it in or use automatic. Automatic is pretty slick. You just click inside a room and it automatically creates the ceiling for you. Let's take a look at the different types of ceilings that we have. We have a generic one, but then we also have a 2x4 ACT system. The ACT stands for acoustical ceiling tile. And then we also have the GWB, and the GWB stands for gypsum wallboard, sheetrock, or drywall, if you will. So I can choose either of those types. Then take a look at the height itself. So currently I've got an 8'4" ceiling, and the important thing is that the walls have to be taller than the ceiling that I'm trying to create, or else the walls will not pick up as an island and they will not automatically select. So you can see each of these rooms highlight when I hold my mouse over them. If I go ahead and click inside of a room, I can see it add the acoustical ceiling tile in there. If I want to switch to a gypsum wallboard, either on wood furring or metal stud, and click inside of a room, one of the things that I found sometimes with Revit is it doesn't show up properly when you click to place your gypsum wallboard ceiling. And my tip to you is to change the view to the shaded mode. So I'm going to come down here to my view bar and change the visual style to shaded. When I do that, I can now see the ceiling that I just placed. Also, the fact that I hid the roof that was right here helps out a lot in this situation, because you can see this roof over here. So if I want to go ahead and continue to place in some additional ceilings, as you can see, I can do so. Alright, let's jump down to the basement and take a look at its ceiling plan. So look at the ceiling plan views over here. Notice that there's no basement. So I'm going to have to create one. To create a new view, we go up to the View tab. That makes sense, right? And then we're creating a plan view. So here's my plan view options and a few different types that I can create. In this case, I want to make a reflected ceiling plan. When I choose that, I see all the levels that do not currently have a ceiling plan. So I'm going to choose basement and click OK. So right now I'm in my basement ceiling plan. It's not looking very good. Let's talk about why that is. I'm going to jump back up to the second floor and talk about what we were actually looking at in this ceiling plan. So you might remember that on a regular floor plan, we looked at the view range, and the view range said that we're basically coming up 4 foot off the ground, or off the level that we're on, and cutting and removing everything above 4 feet, so that when we're looking down, we see everything at the 4 foot level and below. In the case of a ceiling plan, which is often called a reflected ceiling plan, it's a little bit different. Let me scroll down here and take a look at my view range. Click Edit. You can see that the cut plane on a reflected ceiling plan is 7'6". So we're coming up 7'6" off the current level, in this case the second floor. And instead of showing everything below that, we're showing everything above that. That's why we have the name reflected ceiling plan. So let's come back down to the basement and figure out why I'm getting something weird here. If I click on this, it looks like I'm getting the floor, most likely the floor from up above. So I'm going to explore a little bit. My view range is set to 7'6". Let's go take a look at an elevation and see what that means. So here is my basement level at -8'6". If I went up 7'6" from there, that would put me at -1 feet. That would put me right about here. So this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing only the floor, no walls or anything like that. So I need to go and adjust that view range and bring it down another foot so that it's actually crossing through these walls. So I'm going to return to my basement ceiling plan, edit view range, and adjust my cut plane from 7'6" to 6'6". Now that cut plane moved down a foot, now I can actually see the walls in here. So I'm going to go to add a ceiling in. One of the other problems that I need to watch out for is that the ceiling actually has to work. You can see right now I'm getting the no symbol. I'm not allowed to place a ceiling. And why that is, if I look over here at my height, it's an 8'4" ceiling. If I tried to put in an 8'4" ceiling on the basement level, that's going to be 2 inches below the first floor. That's going to be literally inside the floor structure up above. So that's not going to work. So the height of the floor has to make sense, or excuse me, the height of the ceiling has to make sense. So let's try a 7-foot ceiling instead. And now you can see that I can actually click to place the ceiling. And once more, I'm going to switch to shaded mode so that I can actually see these ceilings as they're placed. So another way that you can make a ceiling is you can actually attach it to a floor. So let's talk about that for just a second. I'm going to turn on my section box in this 3D view so that I can cut into the house and we can see some of the layers of the floors here. So you can see my second floor ceiling here. You can see down here in the basement, here's the floor and then some ceilings. And then I want to add some ceilings on the first floor, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Instead of doing a separate ceiling tool, I'm just going to add the ceiling to the bottom of this floor structure. If you think about how it's actually built, typically you have the joists for your floor. So if you think about in terms of a basement, if you aren't thinking of a 2-level house, when you go down to the basement, you can see the joists for the first floor, and if you wanted to go ahead and put in a ceiling, you would typically just go ahead and fasten the drywall or the sheetrock to the bottom of those joists. So in a sense, the ceiling below becomes part of the floor structure above. So we can actually duplicate that. If I edit type on this floor, I can duplicate and create a new type, but just to keep it simple, I'm going to edit the existing one. I'm going to insert a new layer on the bottom here, and I'm going to make it a finish layer. I'm going to choose the gypsum wallboard material in my list here. And then I will give it maybe a 1/2 inch thickness. Okay, so when I click OK, you might have noticed that floor just got a little thicker. It actually has the ceiling attached to it now. So I may or may not see that on the ceiling plan. I'm going to switch back to the first floor, switch to the shaded mode, and I can actually see that now. There's basically a ceiling there that was attached to the floor above. Here's the big difference though. If you are going to render a scene and put lighting in, most of the light fixtures are ceiling hosted items. So that means if I went to the second floor and chose my component tool and then chose a light fixture, such as this pendant light, I can place lights on the ceiling. If I go to the first floor, I am not able to place this item because Revit does not see an actual ceiling structure. So we kind of cheated in a way. We just put the sheetrock as a part of the floor up above. If we know we're going to want to add light fixtures in, that might not be the best method to add a ceiling. So that concludes our video on creating ceilings in Autodesk Revit.